And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Cubist from Griffin Games. Cubist is a game about, well, the art of cubism. Now I have to be honest here, cubism has absolutely no appeal to me. I've never understood all that. It just looks weird to me, but I know a lot of people do like it, and obviously the different artists who put it together are very, very popular, like Juan Gris, Franz Marc. Yeah, I don't even know who those guys are, but that doesn't matter to me. Games about art tend to appeal to me, and Eagle/Griffin tends to do a lot of them. So let's take a look at this one and see how good it is. The goal of Cubist is to get the most points, and there's two ways to do that. One is by building these exhibitions here with dice cubes that you have, and they'll score you the points shown here. For example, this one will score you 1 point. And the other is to add dice to the museum here. A museum is being built, and each die that you get in the museum is worth 2 points. At the beginning of the game, a red die is rolled and placed in the middle of the museum. This is the start of the museum. Each player gets a whole pile of dice of their color and a board. You have some artist cards out here and then some exhibition cards. Now what you're going to do on your turn is you're going to take 2 dice and you're going to roll those dice, and then you're going to place those dice here and you're going to utilize those dice. Now you can start some exhibitions here if you'd like to. So you could put a die here, I could put a die here, I can work on 2 at the same time, and then my turn would be over. Next turn I can roll 2 more dice and do the same thing. Now, when you put dice out and things, there's some rules. First of all, you can always stick up to 2 dice in storage, which means on a future turn, when I roll dice, I can use all 4 dice if I'd like to. When you place dice here in exhibition, the first one can be any number you want. After that, though, to go next to a die, it has to be either 1 greater or 1 less than that number. So next to this 3, I would need to either put a 4 or a 2. Nothing else could go next to it. If I want to go on top of a die, it has to be the exact same number. So on top of a 3, I would put another 3. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to form these cards here. Each of these cards has a different requirement. For example, this one here, you're basically making a T shape. Here you have 5 in a row. Here you have 3 that are 3 high. And it shows you both the sideways view, the top-down view, and the top-down view has numbers if there's going to be dice that are stacked in it. Once I've completed one of those on my turn, I will discard all the dice. That finishes it. Let's say I managed to make this T here. So let's show you what that would look like here. And by the way, I don't have to say which one I'm going for, but I can't add dice or have extra dice. So here's the T that I would have played. I will discard those dice and then take this card and put this card in front of me, drawing a new card to take its place. There's another T, except this one goes up in the air. Once I take this card, I will take a die that's shown. This one shows a 2, so I'm going to put a 2 on this. Now this die can be used when on my turns to be added to the museum. The museum has a certain layout too, which will change from game to game. Here, this one you can see, for example, has 2 rows of 4 dice and then a stack of 2 and a stack of 3. But there's all sorts of museums, and these museums will change based on the number of players in the game. The rules for placing dice in the museum are also similar to the other rules, so my 2 wouldn't even be able to go out there until I managed to get the numbers down to a lower, all the way down to, there's a 3, now I can put a 2 out. So you're building the museum, but you only can use dice in the museum for completed exhibitions. Another thing you can do on your turn is you can place multiple dice on one of these artist cards. So let's say, for example, I put 3 dice, a pair of 3s here. The dice have to be the same. So if I want to put dice on this card, I would have to put 3 of the same number. When you put dice on these cards, that's the end. That's all you can do for now. On your next turn, you can take these dice off the card and utilize a special ability of that card. This gives you a free die that's a 2. This one you can have a 2 or a 5. This one is one of your choice. This one is a 1 or a 6. But there are many different things. This one here lets you subtract 2 from one of your dice that you have, and that includes ones that you can put into the museum. So that can be very useful. Here you can move a die that's in one of your exhibitions to a new spot. Here you can copy someone else's stored die. Here you can just remove a die from one of your exhibitions, or subtract 1 from one of your die rolls, or add 2 to one of your die rolls. There's many different artist cards, and once you use an artist card, it is discarded. You can also steal an artist card from someone else. If I have a pair of 3s here, for example, another player can come in with an equal or higher pair of numbers and replace me. Now, the game is going to be over when the museum is finished, or when one player has built 5 exhibitions. At that point, we total scores, and whoever has the most wins. One last thing is, if someone beats you to an exhibition or something, you are allowed to remove all the dice from one of your exhibitions to start over. Those dice have to go back to your supply, or if you have some pairs or trios, they can go on artists here. That's the game. Now, there is something to be said for having a lot of dice in a game. I love dice, and so this game comes with plenty of them, and they're really good quality dice. I really like the contrast, the purple-green with the yellow, the blue and the orange with the black. They look good, and stacking dice and making formations out of dice, that's a neat concept. And in fact, that's a pretty cool, the game plays pretty cool that way. You're putting out the little exhibitions, you're watching what other players are doing, trying to beat them to be the first ones. You want to roll the right numbers, and you have to decide when is it best to sacrifice 2 dice on an artist card or 3 dice to get that 1 die that you really need. It's very interesting how the game progresses. The first person to put dice in the museum often can kind of manipulate how that museum is going to look and what numbers are needed in the future. And other than that, there's really not a lot I can say about the depth and breadth of this game, because it's fairly simple on top, but it has a lot of cool concepts. Production values are really well done, really great. Even though they're using Cubism art. The ease of play is really simple. I mean, essentially, when you're making these things on the boards, you can rotate them and stuff to see how they fit and make those things out there. But there's only a few of the exhibition cards available at any one time, and everybody's working on the same ones. So sometimes you'll build part of one, hoping to finish it on a future turn, but at the same time, the part of one you built can probably fit in another exhibition. And if not, well then hopefully you'll find the artist card that lets you move a die or get rid of a die. The gameplay is fairly quickly. It takes, the box here says 30 to 45 minutes, and I think that's very accurate. I think 30 minutes for 2 players, maybe up to 50 minutes for 4 players. In fact, the sweet spot for this might be 3 players. But this is a very easy, family-friendly style. There's some in your face, where, you know, when you put dice on a card, take it from somebody else, or finish an exhibition before somebody else does also. But for the most part, you're working on your own little project and putting the dice. 1s and 6s are bad in this game because the only thing that can go next to a 1 is a 2, and next to a 6 is a 5. So you have to be really careful how you put your numbers out, how you make your formations. There's one exhibition that has a grid of 3, 3, 3, 3, a square, and that middle die has to be +1 or -1 to all the dice around it. Neat concept. So this is cool. I like it. It was refreshing, something different, and a game I think families will like, especially those who might have an interest in this style of artwork or just stacking dice, which is me.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!